I've got to tell you, the question of God's existence is one that's fascinated me for years. Today we're diving into one of the most compelling arguments out there, the cosmological argument. Now hold on a second, don't let that fancy term scare you off. We're gonna break this down piece by piece, and trust me, by the end of this video, you'll have a solid grasp on what it's all about. And stick around because we'll be tackling some common objections that might just be rattling around in your head right now. Let's be clear about what we're dealing with here. The cosmological argument is essentially a fancy way of saying, hey, everything that exists must have a cause, right? It's an attempt to prove God's existence by looking at the very nature of the universe itself. Now I know what you're thinking. Eddie, that sounds like a load of philosophical mumbo-jumbo. But hang on, let me break this down for you. At its core, this argument is trying to answer one fundamental question. Why is there something rather than nothing? We're here, the universe is here, but why? The cosmological argument suggests that there must be an ultimate cause for all of this, a first domino that set everything in motion. And spoiler alert, they're going to try to convince you that this first cause is God. Now, for the cosmological argument to work, we need to establish that the universe actually had a beginning. I mean, what if the universe has just always been here, right? Well, let's look at what science tells us. The Big Bang Theory, which is currently our best understanding of the universe's origins, suggests that about 13.8 billion years ago, everything we know came into existence from a singularity. But why does this matter? Well, if the universe had a beginning, it implies that something caused it to begin. And this is where the argument starts to get interesting, because if everything that begins to exist has a cause, and the universe began to exist, then logically, the universe must have a cause. Are you with me so far? Good, because we're about to dive even deeper. So we've established that the universe likely had a beginning. Now let's talk about this idea of a first cause. The cosmological argument posits that there must be an uncaused first cause. Something that kicked off this whole chain of events we call the universe. But why is this necessary? Well, if every cause needs a prior cause, we'd end up in an infinite regress. It'd be like trying to trace back through an endless line of dominoes. At some point, there has to be a first domino, right? Now hold on a second, what kind of properties would this first cause need to have? Well, for starters, it would have to be outside of time and space because time and space are part of our universe. It would need to be incredibly powerful. I mean, we're talking about something that created the entire universe here. And it would have to be uncaused itself, otherwise we're right back to that infinite regress problem. Are you starting to see where they're going with this? Alright, here's where the rubber meets the road. The proponents of the cosmological argument say, hey, you know what fits all these criteria for a first cause? God. They argue that a timeless, spaceless, incredibly powerful, uncaused being sounds an awful lot like the traditional concept of God. But, and this is crucial, even if we accept all the premises of the cosmological argument, it doesn't necessarily prove the existence of any specific God. It doesn't tell us if this first cause is the Christian God or Allah or any other deity. It simply suggests that there's a powerful, transcendent cause behind the universe. Whether you want to call that God is up to you. Now I know what many of you are thinking because it's the first question that popped into my mind too. If everything needs a cause, then who or what caused God? It's a fair question, and it's one of the most common objections to the cosmological argument. Let's break this down. The argument doesn't actually state that everything needs a cause. It states that everything that begins to exist needs a cause. The idea here is that God, as conceived in this argument, didn't begin to exist. God is supposed to be eternal, existing outside of time itself. Now I know that's a mind-bending concept, but the point is the argument isn't saying God doesn't need a cause because God is special. It's saying God doesn't need a cause because God, by definition in this argument, didn't begin to exist. But hold on a second, what if we apply this same logic to the universe itself? Couldn't we just say the universe is eternal and doesn't need a cause? It's a fair question, and it's one that philosophers have grappled with for centuries. The problem is, our current scientific understanding doesn't support the idea of an eternal universe. The second law of thermodynamics, for instance, suggests that in an eternal universe, we would have reached a state of maximum entropy, essentially, the heat death of the universe. Moreover, the expansion of the universe that we observe suggests a beginning point. If the universe were infinitely old, it would have expanded infinitely by now. So while it's tempting to simply say the universe is eternal to avoid the need for a first cause, the evidence we have doesn't seem to support that view. Of course, our understanding could change with new discoveries, but this is where we stand based on our current knowledge. Now here's where things get really interesting. Some critics of the cosmological argument point to quantum physics saying, "Aha! We've observed quantum events that appear to happen without a cause. Doesn't this disprove the whole everything that begins to exist has a cause premise?" It's a compelling objection, I'll give you that. Quantum mechanics is weird, and it certainly challenges our intuitive understanding of cause and effect. But, and I want to be clear about this, even in quantum physics, events don't happen in a complete vacuum. They're influenced by prior quantum states, the laws of quantum mechanics, and the broader physical context. So while quantum events might appear random or uncaused to us, that doesn't necessarily mean they're truly uncaused in an absolute sense. It's a complex topic, and honestly, there's still a lot we don't understand about quantum mechanics. It's a complex topic, and honestly, there's still a lot we don't understand about quantum mechanics. Now you might be thinking, Eddie, this all sounds like a bunch of philosophical word games. And I get it, I really do. But it's worth noting that the cosmological argument isn't just some fringe idea. It has a long history in philosophy, and even some modern scientific support. In the 20th century, the discovery of the Big Bang provided some scientific backing to the notion that the universe had a beginning. Of course, that doesn't mean the argument is bulletproof, far from it. But it does mean it's worth taking seriously and examining critically. And that's really what I want to emphasize here. The importance of critical thinking. Whether you find this argument convincing or not, what matters is that you're engaging with these big questions and really thinking them through. So, why does all this matter? Well, the cosmological argument, whether you accept it or not, forces us to grapple with some of the biggest questions there are. Where did everything come from? Why is there something rather than nothing? These aren't just abstract philosophical puzzles. They're questions that get to the heart of our existence, our place in the universe. And I think that's pretty damn important. Look, at the end of the day, whether you find the cosmological argument convincing or not isn't really the point. What matters is that you're thinking critically about these big questions. If this video has sparked your curiosity or made you think, then I've done my job. So, keep questioning, keep thinking, and don't be afraid to engage with ideas that challenge your beliefs. And hey, if you found this helpful, why not share it with someone else who might be wrestling with these questions? Thanks for sticking with me through this cosmic journey. Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.